Hey there, coaches. I'm Rich Prado, owner of Play In School and host of Travel Ball Talk, where I talk to travel ball coaches from the best organizations about the current and future state of travel baseball. Today's call features the only person I know from Minnesota. Steve McGuiggan is the founder of the Minnesota MASH. Before this call, I wasn't even sure they played baseball up there. After this call, I was so impressed with everything that Steve and his staff are doing. I hope you enjoy this episode of Travel Ball Talk. All right, welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. Today on the line, we've got Steve McGuiggan, head coach, founder, owner of the Minnesota MASH. Now, real quick, about 10 days ago, I knew exactly 0 people in the state of Minnesota, and now I know exactly 1 person in the state of Minnesota. So I'm sitting at lunch, and Steve just gives me a follow on Twitter, as those things happen sometimes. And I look down, I check it, I go to his profile, I'm just kind of looking at it, and I go, wait, they play baseball up there? I'm like, isn't that near the Arctic Circle? And so I was kind of intrigued. I went to the website, I went to the Twitter page, and I said, we got to get this guy Steve on here, and so we can talk baseball, Minnesota, see when the cold dark winters end, what the world of baseball is like. So Steve, welcome to Travel Ball Talk, man. Looking forward to the conversation.
I appreciate it. I'm really excited to represent the entire state right now. It's a great segue, and we do play baseball up here. We got uniforms and everything.
Oh, they gave me all uniforms made out of like seal skin and like moose hides to keep you warm.
That's pretty much it.
Right.
There's a lot of teams called like the Lumberjacks, like the Wolves. That's kind of the nicknames up here.
Can you see the northern lights from where you're sitting?
Not from where I'm sitting. I told you this before. I will admit that I'm sitting outside right now because it's the first time that we've had sun out in about 2.5 weeks. It's been sitting in the 40s, and we're into May now. So pretty devastating up here. That's actually colder than usual, but everyone's out there playing baseball. We itch to get outside, so people are excited.
All right. So for myself and for listeners at home, can you give us just the brief background, the brief baseball background on yourself, and then also where Minnesota MASH came from, and and give us that founding story. And I know you got some partners up there that are heavily involved. So go ahead and give us the old background.
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2012, I was your classic just out of college athlete who was trying to figure out his life. So I started giving lessons at a place called Drive Performance in Illinois. And while I was out there, I went and wanted to play one more time. So I signed a professional contract in the Frontier League. And while I was going out there, I got a phone call from my cousin asking if I'd ever heard about a guy named Tom Buski. And he was trying to put together a baseball club. And in the state of Minnesota in 2012, that still wasn't really a thing. Everyone kind of played Legion baseball. You wouldn't really train that often in the off season. You would just like hockey season, you pick up your skates. Basketball season, you pick up your shoes. Baseball season, you pick up a bat. It was kind of that thing. So I gave him a call, and he said he was going to give a go at being a baseball coach. And I was familiar with it being out in Illinois. And I said, hey, man, I'm going to go out and play for the Southern Illinois Miners, but I haven't played in a year, and I don't know how it's going to go. I might be calling you soon. And an 0 for 14 start led me to calling him no more than a week and a half later and saying, hey, man, I'm on my way back. Do you want to get together? So I met with Tom in 2012. We founded Minnesota MASH Baseball Club, and it started out as just being a baseball club, your classic, try to get players, try to figure out how to get them into your program. And then from there, it turned into much more. We now have a 20,000 square foot facility in Eagan, which is the south suburbs of Minneapolis. We have 11 full-time employees, a full service strength conditioning that also services all sports, and just basic clientele, general population. And then we also developed the Mindstrong Project, which is our mental side of training. So we have a 3-pillar system now, 8 years in, that has just really been based off coaching culture first and letting everything else fall into place.
Thank you. I think that was a great summary. And we're going to go right down that list of things, I think, and talk about a whole bunch of that. You mentioned the kind of the three pillars, or 3 legs to the stool, which make up y'all's program or y'all's business. You got your teams, you got your facility, and you got your Mindstrong. Let's talk just for a second about the facility. I'm guessing y'all are inside a lot. Listen, I live in Richmond, Virginia. Yeah. That's considered the South, and this is an indoor baseball town. There's more facilities here than you can shake a stick at. So I'm assuming y'all go inside. What's the layout of this place look like, and how are you guys leveraging what you have?
Yeah, so when we originally started, we were in we subleased space from another facility. We had about 1.5 cages, and then our weight room, which consisted of pretty much a set of kettlebells, 1 rack, and some bands. And we painted Attitude and Effort on the wall right under an American flag. That was pretty much all we had. And now, 6 years later, 6 years into it, we moved into our home. It's 20,000 square feet. When you first walk in, there's about 9,000 square feet of gym, which is a really healthy gym. It's not something that is just up. I think a lot of baseball clubs have a gym in order to help kids, and it's beneficial. But our gym is 9,000 square feet. It's fully outfitted. We have 3 full-time strength coaches who work with all our athletes. We partner with Premier Sport and Spine, which is the #1 chiropractic sport and spine company in Minnesota. And we also have a cryo sauna, which is like cold therapy inside of our front area of our gym. And that was extremely important to us. Is when we left, we said, okay, what's our biggest separator? And our strength staff is incredible. They're amazing. I mean, I think most strength staff, if you're in that industry, you only last about 5 or 6 years. And our head strength guy has been doing it for 13 years now. So he's extremely qualified.
The weight room portion, the strength and conditioning portion of this building is 9,000 square feet?
Yep.
So without not a cage, not a baseball, not a bat, that's incredible. That's an incredible. It shows the level of commitment to getting strong and staying healthy. Good for you. Good stuff. Keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I love that, and I appreciate that. It's difficult, and for any club baseball owner, I'm sure when they hear this and they look at that, it's difficult to do that because it is massive overhead. Right, you have to invest a lot of money. Yeah. But at the end of the day, our head strength coach Nate Stemper and our 2 assistant strength coaches Jake Schmitz and Mike Brash, they always say form over function. So I love them because it's pretty easy to put someone through a workout. You could walk in to MASH, and I could put you through a workout. I'm a communications major, and make you think that you worked hard. Mm-hmm. But to actually understand what to do and not just say we're doing a circuit. They individually program to actually do this. So everyone gets a book. They have their own individualized program that they go through based on their goals and their sport and what they're trying to accomplish. And that takes a lot of time. So that form over function model has had our athletes be incredibly healthy. It's kept our baseball players on the field, which is an extreme benefit to our coaching staff because now the work that they do in the turf area actually translates to the field because they're out there.
Love it. One of the things that I noticed, I don't talk about it much anymore, but I used to run these bus tours, and we'd go I'd load up a charter bus and take a bus load of kids, and we'd go see about 20 colleges over the course of 4 days. It was like 20 unofficial visits in 4 days, right? It was intense. And we were seeing both academic campus and the athletic facilities. So it kind of gives you an idea how quick we were really hoofing it around campus. But
Yeah.
the what we noticed immediately was that, yeah, everybody wants to show you the field and everybody wants to show the locker room. I'm talking about the college coaches, but boy, they show every 100% of the coaches would take us through the weight room, and it showed you how important the strength and conditioning piece of the puzzle is. So yeah, that it's coming down the line. We actually, in a recent call with Andy Parton, we spent about an hour strictly talking about strength and conditioning, because that's his world, that's his passion. And so that's cool to see, because I'm thinking you could, 20,000 square feet or however many square feet a facility owner has, you start doing some math and you say this, each square foot's worth this much money if we're doing certain things. And you might figure out that a bunch of private lessons inside a cage are worth more than the same square footage with some weights that are sitting there. So again, I commend you for, understanding the value of that and committing to your players to be strong and stay healthy. So
well, it's just so different. The important part there is that I'm really proud of this, is our guys show up on campus, and wherever they end up committing or going, there's no greater compliment for us than having a college coach send us a message or a phone call and say, hey, your guys are they're ready. They're ready to go. They know where to go around the weight room. They know how to talk to an adult. They handle themselves. They're independent. They can do these things on their own. And that makes college coaches want to have more of our guys, because when they show up, they don't have to worry about them. They know they're going to get their work done. So I think that the weight room is the number one reason why our guys show up as freshmen and are able to contribute. Not necessarily that they're just as physical as a 22-year-old. They just know how to handle themselves. So
beyond the weight room portion of the building, I'm assuming you probably have 1,000 square feet of, office space and hangout area for mom and dad and some bathrooms. That leaves you with probably about 10,000 square feet for baseball. Is that pretty close?
You nailed it. You nailed it.
And so how many cages and tunnels and mounds and stuff? What do you got going on over on that half?
Yeah, so in the turf bay we have nine cages. 8 of them are 80-foot cages, and then we have one small cage. So they're very big cages. Our ceilings are 20 feet high.
Yeah, spacious.
So the cages are really, nice. And the first place we were at was get the nets to the top, and balls were hitting, and sometimes it would ricochet off the pillars at the top of the warehouse. So going to that, I feel like I'm in the big leagues coaching in these cages. So it's been really, really nice. So in the turf area, we have myself, Harvey Martin, Tony Vaca, Nolan Johnson, Andy Hankemeyer, and Rhett Hebig, and Tom Buski, and that's our baseball coaching staff. So there's 4 permanent cages where we run a lot of our pitching and hitting daily instruction. And then on the far side bay, it's about 60 yards of space that we put 5 cages in that are all able to be broken down in less than 30 seconds. They're on pulley systems. Pull those down and you can do anything. You can do defense. You can do full training. We rent out to soccer clubs on that side. So it's a very functional space that we can use. And our strength staff obviously also uses that throughout their summer speed program to have, 60 yards of turf spaces. Pretty beneficial.
This is kind of a nitty gritty question. Maybe nobody cares about this but me. But did you hang all these nets, or did you have a professional company come in and do all that work for you as far as the setup?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to do dirty work. I'll clean toilets. But when it came to that, we had On Deck Sports come out and do that. That would have been a nightmare. And they did a great job.
Yeah,
they did a phenomenal job.
I'm not sure there's a lot of folks who've been in more different facilities than I have. And the thing is, most of the time when you're going to set your facility up, it's a big cost to bring in a professional crew to do all that. And so you see a lot of times it's going to be, a couple of the coaches. Maybe you get some of the dads to come in and, you either borrow or rent some equipment and you hang it, and it's fine and it works. Good buddies of mine here, they've been in business forever, and what happens is you keep outgrowing your space, and they've moved 3 or 4 times, and the last time they finally had enough of doing it themselves, and they had a professional company come in, and you can just tell that you can tell the difference. You can tell the difference, and it's again, it's an investment, but boy, you can tell when it's pros who put it up. So that's smart of you. Let's take a short break from this call to talk about my day job, video. In 2019, if you aren't leveraging film to market your guys, you are doing them a disservice. So where do I come in? Well, filming one guy on your iPhone and texting it to coaches or posting it to Twitter is easy. But filming 25, 50, 100, or 200 is really hard. And that's why you haven't done it already. That's why smart coaches partner with Play in School. We do all the work. We come to you. We can film 100 guys in the time it would take you to film just 4 or 5. If you'd like to see every team we partner with, visit playinschool.com/teams. Contact me today to discuss the details. Now, back to the call. Now, a second ago, you rattled off a ton of names, and you already referenced this earlier, and I think I want to get into this now. Most facilities and most kind of like the travel baseball business side of things is usually a couple of owners with a whole bunch of part-time help. That's like the normal model, and it's served itself really well for a large percentage of the baseball businesses, the teams and the facilities. You guys have kind of turned that upside down, and you have, I think you listed 10 full-time employees that work for the facility, and that's really amazing. Can you talk about like how y'all came to the decision to, that's a big decision. That's a big time investment. How did y'all get comfortable with that? And tell me about that.
Yeah, and that's honestly the number one thing that we're most proud of in our business, to be honest with you, is that, Tom and I are very similar in the fact that, if you want to call it cheesy or not, we live by that lifestyle of we're here to serve others. I think anyone who's in this field needs to understand how important when a parent gives you their child and they're in front of us. Some of these kids are here 5 or 6 hours a day. They are here. They're going to be influenced by our coaching staff more than anyone else outside of their immediate family. That's a massive responsibility for everyone in youth sports to really understand. And you have to remove yourself from the paper and the X's and O's and say, okay, what are we truly trying to provide, our members, our clients? So when Tom and I started, we were young enough, fortunately, Tom was 24 and I was 22, that we were living at home. We did it. We lived at home. I would go in, we'd grind out lessons. Tom and I worked 7 hours a day. I remember, or 7 days a week. And on Sundays, we used to work 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. with lessons straight. And anyone who knows the lesson grind knows that is an absolute, it's like giving a PowerPoint presentation every hour on the hour from the second you wake up, from the second you go to sleep. So when that happened, it became really easy to have 2 guys who were willing to be in the trenches to hire on people and explain to them, listen, this is how we're going to do things here. This isn't going to be for everyone. We don't paint a pretty picture for people who want to get into this business, because if you're going to be successful, it's not pretty. It's not fun. You work nights, you miss your family stuff. You're going to work weekends. You're going to miss all the games. So putting that out front was extremely important. And when we hired Nate Semper, who now runs all of our strength and conditioning stuff, He worked on 100% commission. He was 26 years old. You know, we've just been extremely lucky to find people who have an extreme passion for this. And we've always said, listen, our number one goal is to make this a life for you. This isn't just a thing that you're going to do for a couple of years. This is a life for you. And in order to do that, we have to back that up. And so we have buckets that are basically no-touch buckets of financials that we say, okay, X amount is going to go to reinvest back in the business, and X amount is going to be reinvesting in our employees and making sure that they're growing not only financially every year, but also they're growing in their roles. Everyone's roles are constantly evolving here. No one's been in the same role every year. I think that becomes stale. That's why, you know, when people are the head coach of a college baseball or football team, sometimes you just need a new venue.
Hey,
right?
Steve,
you just need to move somewhere.
Hey, Steve, I hate to interrupt you. I'm getting a little bit of fuzz or feedback, and I wonder if you changed positions on me. Or maybe
better?
Go again?
Is this better?
No, I don't know what happened. It's not. I'll tell you what, man. I hate to interrupt you like that. You're.
No, that's all right.
It is. It's poor enough that I want to try to bring you right back. Is that okay?
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. It's deteriorated. I'm going to call you right back.
Okay.
Better.
There we go.
All right. So, man, you were on a roll right there, and I was getting so inspired, but I was having trouble hearing you. You were talking about the buckets. You want to go back and start there?
Yeah, are we on right now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, hey everybody, how we doing?
No, we'll fix this in the editing or not. It's no big deal. It's so much better though. I want people to be able to hear this clearly.
Yeah, so trying to think of kind of where I was at. So when Nate came on, who's now our director of strength, he actually used to be Tom's boss. They worked together at another gym, and when Tom left, he said, "This is the guy we have to get," and he came on, and it's an absolute ragtag group of guys. I mean, it is truly. I know everyone thinks that they have a great story, but I mean, our pitching coach I met in the Northwoods League. When he got released by the Milwaukee Brewers, I drove and picked him up in a cornfield. He traded in his plane ticket to Florida for cash and drove here to start working here. Our assistant strength coach lived in a van behind the facility for multiple years. This is true. These are all true stories. He lived in a van behind. He's a minimalist. Dove all in. Our other strength coach left Northern Illinois University because he wanted to move back home and be closer to family. Tony Vaca, our assistant pitching coach and head of baseball, he drove here from Arizona. He was a teammate of Harvey's in the Northwoods League for the Eau Claire Express. Dropped everything, drove out here from Arizona to try to earn a full-time job. Nolan Johnson moved from California to come back home to try to get Mindstrong Project and match billing. So it's this really interesting story of all of these guys. And Mike, the guy I just mentioned from Northern Illinois, he is the first person that we offered a full-time job before working hourly. And many of those guys did work hourly with the vision of working here full-time for the rest of their lives. Every single other person did it. And I'm so grateful that they've stuck it out to get to this point where they're reaping the benefits of a lot of hard work. I mean, these guys are going to be, lifetime friends. I'm hoping that there's little kids running around in here and I get to watch them get married and grow. And that's really the whole point, is trying to develop relationships. So the reality of that is you have to pay people and you have to make sure they're okay. And so that involves having full benefits. And when we started doing that, and I'm so thankful for Tom, because I'm more of our vision, culture, lesson guy. Tom has been just incredible at making sure that all our employees are set up for financial success. So we're really blessed to have a fun team, people who are willing to, work for basically nothing for multiple years to get to this point. So it's an incredible story. A lot of fun.
You mentioned it very quickly, but I want to reiterate this. These guys are not only on full-time salary, but you're also providing them with health insurance and retirement. We're talking about a baseball facility, right? I mean that.
Yes, sir. They also get dental.
Dental. These guys have teeth too. Incredible. Listen, I there's not a lot of facilities out there where basically everybody underneath the roof is a full-time guy. And again, that's cool, man. You got to be in the 1% of places or 5%. Most places are the complete opposite, and it's not right or wrong. I mean, the way they do it is probably the right way. Y'all are crazy is probably the reality.
I think that every day,
but
and I know that we are.
Yeah, but there's something to be said about having the continuity of the same guys who are going to be in there for a long, long time. Very cool, man. Good on you. I hopefully somebody hears this and they start thinking about kind of how you're doing it, and golly, I just can't imagine.
Well, and there's nothing better. There's nothing more rewarding. I mean, we have guys. I mean, Andy Henkemeyer is a guy who, he's back there and he started out hourly, and he's our absolute workhorse now. He's our director of baseball, and everyone has that moment, right, when they're working part-time that they say, is this what I want to be doing? Do I want to flip baseballs? Do I want to be in a cage? Like, is this my purpose in life? And so making them understand that your purpose in life is not to coach this kid on his swing. Your purpose in life is not to get this kid to throw harder. Your purpose in life is to take kids who have a dream, and you have a platform in baseball to teach them how to be extremely successful human beings. We've had kids leave here who are entrepreneurs. They start their own businesses. They go to the Air Force Academy. They're flying fighter jets. And when you talk about culture and the meaning of what we're trying to do as a coaching staff, when you get people who can have that button click and not just roll their eyes at it and understand the responsibility that they have, which everyone in here does, and that's why they deserve to be full-time, because now you can actually have a culture that people want to be around, because now I know everyone. We know everyone when they walk in. We know their name. We know where they're from. We know their school. You're not just going to have your one coach that you come in and you walk through and you're looking for that guy. Yeah. If we have coaches that don't know one of our players, there's a problem there.
So you've touched on why you guys are so focused on coaching culture, but how? What are some of the things you guys are doing a little bit different, maybe than the guy down the street from y'all on the culture side?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is the message, right? So anytime you're in youth sports, it can be extremely difficult for coaches and facilities to stick to their message because there's constant influence, right? Well, I need to influence this coach to understand how important my kid is. Or I'm sure a lot of facilities go through, okay, well, this kid's one of the best players in the state. Let's give him a huge discount. It starts there. We don't do those things. If you want to be a part of our club, whether you are the best player in the state of Minnesota or you're a C-team player, it is a fact that you will be treated the exact same way. And the reason for that is, I think it's Tim Corbin with Vanderbilt. He talks about that, of saying the second that you start giving special treatment to your top players, the second culture goes out the window. So that's extremely important to us. We created a 501c3 called the M Foundation, which is our nonprofit scholarship fund that allows for families who either have unexpected hardships or financial problems to apply for a scholarship through us. That allows for them to train, whether that's in the gym, through our Mindstrong, through our baseball club. So that gives them that opportunity so they understand that, yes, this is how it's going to work, but we'll create a nonprofit to make sure that you have the opportunity to do what you want to do. That's huge. And then the second part, in my opinion, is making sure that the staff is on the same page. So we meet 2 times a week. We meet every Monday for 2 hours and Fridays for 30 minutes. We have so our dream is to build our dream facility in the year 2022. I'm not shy about saying that. It's kind of our vision. It's what we talk about. And so we got a Lego set in the office with a bunch of grown adults, and every week we hand out bricks and mortar. So that's basically your job for the week. We have high performance planners that we communicate not just as work, but as individuals, because these are our best friends. We want to hear about your girlfriend. We want to hear about your family. We want to hear about your nephews. So we get a time to share every Monday to stay connected, know what we're trying to do. And when you accomplish one of your bricks, you actually, literally, we play brick house, and you get a Lego and you slap that son of a gun right on the Lego platform, and we're one step closer to having our dream facility. So we do a lot of stupid stuff like that. I mean, I get creative. We do obstacle courses. I got a Plinko board to give people bonuses every once in a while. I don't know. We're just having a lot of fun.
I tell you what, man, I love it. And for those who know me, I'm into the planner, you know,
Yep.
and I'm not shy about talking about that. I started utilizing April 1st of 2018. I started implementing a productivity planner, and I know the power, and obviously so much. I loved it so much, I knocked it off and created one specifically for student athletes called the Prospect Planner. I'm all behind it, so that when I hear that not only are you using a planner, a productivity planner for yourself, but you've implemented it staff-wide, that's unbelievable. But not only did you hand them out and say, hey, use this, and everybody went and used it, but you're having a meeting based around your goals. You're calling them bricks. I'm calling them goals. That is big time. Big time. I tell you what, if somebody's hearing this and they're on the fence about it, I highly encourage you, reach out to Steve, pick his brain, see how he's doing it, see how he started it. Because this is something I could see, the tough guy baseball coach out there maybe a little hesitant to implement something like this. I would highly encourage you and ask Steve how it's changed the business, how it's changed the culture. How does changing the culture change the business?
I mean, it changes everything. Honestly, I talk about this a lot with anyone who asks me, how did you get this to this point? And it's the second that you realize as a founder and owner, whoever is a founder or owner of their company, you're not the owner of that business, because if people are willing to be in that with you, that's their life too. So Mike, our new head strength coach, he's banking on MASH just as much as I am. It's not your business. So there needs to be time in which those people can share not only their personal story so that they can be connected to what you're doing, but also what's important to them within that business. Because a lot of the times there's a lot going on. Most club baseball owners have a lot going on. And if you add a gym and a mental performance to it, everybody has their wing that they're going to want to make sure is being heard. Well, there's no better way to do that than to all sit in a room and give them the floor once a week. If communication fails, nobody's getting dental. It's simple as that. If they don't know what they're working towards and they don't feel a valued member of the company, it's not going to work.
Unreal. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. This is some super powerful stuff. I'm glad I looked into where Minnesota was so I could have this conversation with you today, because I think there's some power coming from this thing. All those things you just described basically answer the question of how you go about having nearly 100% retention of this staff. I mean, why would they want to leave? Yeah,
I appreciate it.
I do have a question about this, though. If you look at the other model, right, the sort of the traditional model with a bunch of part-timers, a lot of those guys have a day job, and they moonlight in baseball. Baseball is their side gig. Well, if your day job is baseball, do some of these guys moonlight doing non-baseball stuff just to go do something that's not baseball related?
Phenomenal question. They all did during their time of trying to earn a full-time salary, of working towards that. And there's a difference between having someone on hourly and thinking they're working hourly and communicating to them, this is what we can afford to pay you, and we're going to work towards this. And that becomes easier and easier when the people in front of them can back you as an owner and say, this is what I did, this is where I'm going. They're kept to their word, this is where we're at. But yeah, I think Jake, the guy who lives in the van, has the funniest story. I feel so bad admitting this, but when you're building a business, sometimes you forget. And this was the issue. This is why we started talking about culture, because when you first start, you're just trying to keep your head above water.
Yeah.
You're just doing whatever you can. And Jake, who's now our head strength coach right behind Nate Stemper, he started as an intern, and then he started working hourly. We put him up in a mezzanine space in a baseball warehouse and told him, get adult clients, which was a complete setup for failure. Such a horrible leadership tactic of telling this guy to start his own thing. He would come in, he'd go 6 to 9. He would work upstairs trying to get an adult client thing. He would drive straight to an elderly yoga gym, teach elderly yoga. Serious. Then he drove bus tables, and then he would come back and work 3 to 10 and then sleep in a van behind the facility. These are the types of guys that we have working here.
Unreal.
Like, it's incredible.
Committed.
So a lot of guys did that at first until they were put on full time. So I've been extremely lucky to be the guy who's been able to sit in rooms and watch every single person who works here be told, you're going to go on full time. And it's emotional. Like, it's an emotional time for every single person because they committed and they said, I'm going to jump in and have this leap of faith. And when you can actually come through for them, basically because they came through for themselves, it's a pretty emotional moment that you get connected to. And I think that's why 100% of our coaches who have started coaching here still coach here.
Incredible stuff. Now, okay, so there's one piece of the puzzle that we haven't gotten into that I know is a big part of the whole pie, and I think it's a piece you're really passionate about. I hope people haven't shut off this interview yet, because I think the best is still yet to come. Can you tell us about Mindstrong and everything? Kind of tell us what Mindstrong is and where the inspiration for Mindstrong came from.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mindstrong is basically the search of finding the world's best human performers. It's all about human performance. So when Harvey Martin came here in 2015, we were all still just baseball guys and strength coaches. And if you're going to have the culture that we just talked about, you are going to have great relationships with kids. And in so doing, you're going to find some things out about kids that you would have never thought was real. Depression, suicidal thoughts, issues at home that these kids are asking you to talk to them about. And it just got to the point where it was a lot. There's a lot of kids, and we're in a great area, in Minnesota, and there's a lot to be happy about living here. So obviously across America, this is a kind of an epidemic in youth sports, is the pressures that come along with youth sports. So I give the credit to Harvey is he started researching about youth sports. He got a master's degree from Minnesota State Mankato in mental performance. And he went into saying this is something we need to solve, or an issue that we need to at least address. So we started doing Mindstrong Mondays in 2015. It was just a free service for just our MASH clients to come up in the mezzanine space, and we would just talk. And we would talk about ways to cope with pressures, ways to be better at school, ways to be more efficient in your life. And slowly but surely, it kind of took on a life of its own. Harvey got massively into breath work and cold and hot therapy. And from there, just kind of pushing pavement, started getting a lot of people following and asking about it. And we had partners, James Van Riemsdyk, NHL All-Star, Brian Peters, who's a captain for the Houston Texans, and then Dave Fisher, who plays professionally and just won a championship in Austria, backed us, and we just started moving on it. And it turned from a free service for kids to get better to basically talking to some of the best human performers in the world, whether that's breath work, whether that's a professional sport, whether that's flexibility, whether that's nutrition. We've been able to talk to some of the world's highest performers. Sometimes I think it's really funny that these people have come on and talked to me and Harvey, because we're just a couple guys from Minnesota who are buddies and just wanted to find out more stuff for our family. So the Mindstrong Project was born. We have a podcast talking to human performers. We're building a 16-person sauna that we're going to put in the back of the facility and do cold ice bath and hot therapy and breath work with all our athletes. And we noticed that once we started putting breath work into our training with all our MASH kids, that there was not only a massive amount of gain physically, but emotionally, it changed a lot of what we do. So if you could picture going back into a facility, you got music as loud as possible. There's a 9,000 square foot strength room. There's kids hitting everywhere. And then in cage one, you got guys laying down, eyes closed, breathing, and they're so in tune with what they're doing that they're able to fall asleep. Absolutely crazy stuff.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. This is a kind of a piece of the puzzle that I have no personal experience with. This stuff wasn't around when I was playing. So it's neat to kind of be on the outside looking in and seeing this stuff. And the piece that really kind of hits me hardest is, just realizing where these kids are feeling so much pressure, and some of it's self-imposed and some of it's kind of imposed from the outside. And just listen, getting into college without even being a baseball player is hard enough these days, right? The competition is strong. And now this world of travel ball, everything that's so good about it, well, guess what? Everybody loves it. It's popular. That means there's more competition. And so, while it can seem like everybody's having a good time, there's obviously kids who, the pressure is on them and they feel it. And so I want to commend you guys for, just recognizing that and, and wanting to give them a skill set to cope with that. I'm over on the website, on it's mindstrongproject.com. I was trying to look at it real quickly. Is there a way, let's say there's a travel team who's listening right now, or a facility, and maybe they don't have an expert like you guys have in house. Is there a way to kind of beam this in? Is there a correspondence course? Is there some video seminars or something where they can present some material to their organization?
Yeah, great question. So we're just finishing up our video series right now, but
okay.
Harvey and I actually travel around and go to different organizations and teach this stuff. We teach breath, we teach culture and leadership. We're going out to Philadelphia to baseball PDS on the 18th to meet with those guys. So we're available. I mean, it's our passion to go out and teach people this is what works. MASH is such a special place. It means everything to me. It's the greatest accomplishment in my life. It's not even close. Nothing I've done besides this has been something I've been prouder of. And that's only in these walls. So the Mindstrong Project basically gives us an opportunity to go to facilities and just teach them what we do and how we do it. And the breath work, so many people, you go to any field in America and somebody's yelling, hey, breathe, or hey, throw a strike. We just need a strike.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying that. Well, how do I breathe? Everybody breathes. Coach, I don't know what you want me to do.
Yeah.
So most guys step off the mound and they take a huge breath in. They don't know what they're doing. They don't understand how to slow themselves down. So without getting too deep into it, if you breathe properly, you actually can lower your heart rate and perform. Mm-hmm. So when you feel like you're stressed out and, oh, my arm's not working correctly, if you are breathing not properly, you do actually constrict the way that your body moves. So when coaches get mad at players and say, you just got to calm down, man, and I love when Harvey does this, and we go to these facilities, and he says, "Oh yeah, it's a great thing. You guys ever been in an argument with your girlfriend or your wife and told her to calm down?"
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah, like today.
It never works,
No.
right? So we take this thing, and everyone says 95% of the game is mental, and then nobody works on it.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about it. They only want to work on the other things. So you get people who go in a cage and they look great, or a bullpen, they look great, and then they go in the games and they can't perform. Well, they don't have anything that allows for them to understand how to slow the game down as if they're in a cage. If they have that, what you see will transfer over. And I get extremely passionate about it because I see how much it helps our kids and helps them perform. And I think it's a huge reason why our kids show up as freshmen and are able to play, between performance and breathing and culture and leadership and understanding that baseball will end one day and you're more than an athlete. Actually telling kids that have them perform better. They're better because now they're playing again. It doesn't become a job. The second I knew I needed to get out of baseball was when I didn't want to go to practice anymore. That's an issue. That's an issue. And the fact that I called Tom and said, "Hey, I'll probably be home soon," I shouldn't even have gone out there. You can't have that attitude in baseball.
Right. Yeah.
So I would challenge coaches out there, instead of asking kids to breathe, telling them to throw strikes, telling them to calm down, we as educators need to learn how to give them tools to have them do that on their own.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. My goodness. A lot of good things happening up in Minnesota, the Great White North.
Thank you.
Unbelievable. You got full-time employees. You have a 20,000 square foot facility. You've got guys who've been there for almost a decade. You've got strength and conditioning. You've got breathing and mental side covered. I mean, we've been on the line almost an hour and haven't even talked about travel baseball. So
yeah,
we may want to talk a little bit about travel baseball, and we might have to have you back for a part 2 at some point. The first thing I want to ask you, kind of talk about baseball for a second, is, we've been joking about it, but Minnesota is not really known. I don't know if you know this, but like nationally, it's not known as a kind of baseball powerhouse or baseball hotbed. And you kind of alluded to it earlier. American Legion was still a big deal even just a couple years ago. So it's transitioning. Obviously, there is another club up there that's has a brand name in the travel ball world. So there is it's a growing scene, but you're still in Minnesota, right? So I'm thinking back to my conversation with the coaches from the Colorado Slammers, also not necessarily known as a baseball hotbed, and they've got some things that they do to overcome geography, right? So talk to me about what are you guys doing to showcase those players from Minnesota.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we started, like I said, so the oldest person at our company right now is 34 years old. So it's 34 and down, 34, 32, 30, 28 and below. Everyone else is under the age of 28. So it's a bunch of young guys. So the reason I say that is when we first started, I mean, we had no shot. Any college coach that I feel so bad for our first 4 classes, because they had to do that on their own.
Yeah.
We would try to help them, but why would you listen to a 22-year-old from Minnesota unless it was Tom went to the University of Minnesota and I went to the University of Illinois Chicago, and obviously we would tell those guys when we had good players, but besides that, it just takes time to get people to know who you are. And when I was playing, so I grew up here. And like I said, you played Legion here. And I never understood. It's really funny to think, even now, is that if you look at Division II baseball, okay, Winona State was in the national championship the other year. Augustana won the national championship. Minnesota State Mankato is a national power every year. Mm-hmm. And I didn't understand why that was happening when I was in high school. Well, it's because all these players weren't getting seen, and they stayed in state.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't play for the Gophers or North Dakota State, you're probably going to one of those NSIC schools. And it still is a phenomenal conference.
Yeah.
Those guys can really go. Those guys can really play. But before, that's where everyone ended up if you didn't get recruited by the Gophers. I remember when I went to University of Illinois Chicago 10 years ago, that was a big deal because people didn't understand how you could go to a Division I school outside of the state. The only reason I went there is because the recruiting coordinator was from here and was back for his brother's bachelor party and just snuck into a field, and I had a good game. That's how I ended up getting out there. True story. So now it's changed, you know, and it's awesome to see. I'm so excited for our kids and just kids in the state of Minnesota in general, between everything that's available on just like media outlets, getting your name out, showcases, travel teams. They all get a bad rep all the time. I've always thought that that was dumb, even when I wasn't a part of doing it. That didn't make sense to me. I think that if people want to do that and want to go travel and play against other teams and other fields instead of playing, you know, Rosemont or Apple Valley for the 700th time in their career, like, I understand that and I get that. And that's why I love being a part of it, where when we first started, kids weren't really leaving the state. And now not just kids from our program, but other programs across the state are sending guys to North Carolina, Oregon State, Stanford, Iowa. They're sending guys to Florida. It's really fun to watch. And obviously, the guys in our program, obviously, I'm really excited for them. But overall in the state, it's just growing. And there is a lot of talent here. You know, and that's not just saying that because I'm from Minnesota. There's a massive amount of talent here. There's a couple kids in Stillwater right now that are going to be, you know, top round draft picks. There's a possible first round draft pick here. There's kids who are very good athletes. They work extremely hard. And now that there's facilities across the state that allow for them to work on their game if they want yearly, you're seeing a lot of these kids start to leave. And like anything, college baseball coach gets out, gets a really good player from the state. That's realizing, oh, this is a good little area and people follow. So it's been fun to see the growth of baseball in Minnesota overall, and watching these kids go to these big time schools is extremely fun.
Is it easy to say that hockey is the number one sport?
Yeah, hockey, people are extremely passionate about hockey here. I mean, they sell out the XL Energy Center, which is where the Minnesota Wild play for the state tournament here. It's insane. But it is a sport. So if you look at the state, the Twin Cities and the surrounding areas are sports frenzied. It's just the other 70% of the state is gorgeous. You know, it's too pretty to do anything with. So basically we all just came into one little area and said, let's do this thing. So there's about a 2-hour drive of area where there's a lot of really highly talented players. And outside of that, you're basically just heading up to the Boundary Waters for a weekend of fishing.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of fishing and hunting up there.
Yeah.
So do you think having hockey in the blood? I mean, you know, you think about a hockey player. I mean, I don't know if it comes much tougher than that, right? Does that hard-nosed mentality transfer over to the baseball field?
You know, I wish that was the case, but in my opinion, I don't think so. I think that that's actually a separator for us. Is we run our practices as if we're a football team. It's extremely high tempo. We're moving around. Our practices usually don't last more than an hour and 15 minutes. But if you're efficient in that hour and 15 minutes, you got guys going, you know, and they're learning to run hard. We literally focus on base running probably more than anything else that we do in team practices. So we try to teach, we don't try to, we do teach a hard-nosed mentality. But the fact is people are just nice here. You know, it's funny to say, but it's trying to get kids to understand, hey, I love that you're a great kid. I love that you're respectful. That's extremely important. But when you're on the baseball field, like, let's go. And that's what I love about our coach, Tony Vaca. He's from Arizona, and he's an Arizona boy. He was the Gatorade Player of the Year in 2009 in the state of Arizona. And he came out here, and we just call him Mr. West Coast. because he said, we're going to change the way we play a little bit. So it's been really fun having him out here challenging our nice Minnesota boys on just being a little more gritty.
That's pretty cool. Well, let's head towards wrapping up here in the near future. What do you see? What's I ask everybody sort of the same kind of question here at the end. What do you see as far as the good, bad, and the ugly of travel baseball right now? Good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, the ugly is parents not understanding and being communicated with by the teams that they're playing for, and this is my opinion. The bad is that's on us coaches. That's on us to be willing to sit down with families one-on-one and give them honest feedback.
Yeah.
And tell them where they're at and tell them where they think they're going to go and not sell them on a pipe dream. When we were first starting, I always kind of felt, and I mean this in no disrespect, I always felt like a mechanic or a plumber because people come into club baseball and they just assume the worst. And that's crazy. And as a unit, we all need to work towards getting rid of that stigma.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make any sense to me that would be the case. It just comes down to communication again. Mm-hmm. We will never tell someone, even on our best summer team, that we guarantee you're going to get a scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's probably a pretty good chance, but we have never told a kid, we will get you a scholarship to X school.
Yeah.
And I just don't believe in that morally because that's outside of your control.
100%.
The good is that you can change that by your daily actions. You can change that by the culture and what you decide to teach these kids. And I'm just so passionate, and everyone who works here is so passionate about the reality of life and understanding that travel baseball gives coaches an opportunity to work with kids not only 12 months out of the year, but we have some kids who have been here since 2012.
Wow.
I've known these kids since they were 12 years old, and now they're 18. And that's a big deal.
Yeah.
You're an extreme role model to that kid. And the good is that our jobs allow for us to be around the most impressionable kids in the world and mold them and help them to become successful after they're done playing baseball. That is the best of travel baseball.
It's so easy to get caught up in the sexiness of, had X number of commitments or draft picks or whatever, when in reality, baseball is more of like a metaphor for life, and we're trying to teach these life lessons through the sport that's kind of fun, right? And I think there's an opportunity to take the other side of it a little less seriously, the commitment side, the draft side of things, and that's awesome when it happens, but
and celebrate it,
and 100% celebrate it. But then all these other things, these lessons that we'll learn through our experiences playing baseball will serve us well until we're little old men who are hobbling around. And so hopefully we take that part with some more seriousness, and take the other part with a little less seriousness, if that makes any sense. Man, I'll tell you,
it makes total sense. Total sense. Nobody grew up.
I've enjoyed talking to my one friend from Minnesota today. Happy to have everybody listen in on this phone call. Gosh, Steve, you've got so much going on up there. I'm really impressed. I have a feeling we're going to hear a lot more from the state of Minnesota here moving forward, because you guys are definitely leading the pack. So I'm gonna definitely load up all of the links to your Twitter, to the Mash's Twitter, to the Mindstrong Project, all the websites and everything else. So if anybody's still listening, just make sure we head to the website where you'll find all the show notes. Steve, I appreciate your time today.
Hey, I greatly appreciate it, and thanks for letting us get our message out. I think it's extremely important. I'm grateful you gave me a platform to do it.
You got it. You did a great job.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Let's keep changing the youth.
You got it, man. Have a good one.
Yep, you too.
See ya. I'm having so much fun bringing these shows to you each week. If you'd like to recommend a coach for the show, please don't hesitate to shoot me a note at rich@playinschool.com or DM me on Twitter @playinschool. Again, my name is Rich Prado. I'm the founder of Play in School. My goal is to continue to create products and services that add value to you, the travel ball coaches, your players, and their parents. Visit playinschool.com to see some of the ways we're doing that. Or better yet, let's set up a call. Until next time, thank you for listening to Travel Ball Talk.